Hello, everyone. I decided to do my final speech on football and how it's really not safe anymore to be played, just because of the discovery of CTE, which is a brain disease that I will get into later on in the slide. Um, but yeah, really, I mean, the game of football isn't safe for the athletes who play it, and for decades now, the NFL has dismissed information linking football with serious brain injuries. But there's actual science to prove that brain injuries can be closely related to football. So with that being said, let me get into the next slide. So just really how big and popular is the NFL? Well, really the NFL is like any other massive corporation out there. Like Nike, Yahoo, Visa, eBay, etc. I mean, they're huge. It seems like the NFL just has this incredible grip on the American sports culture. Every day across our nation, football is happening. Believe it or not, America's a football nation, and its popularity is only really spreading across the world. Which is pretty crazy. Um, within the recent years, the NFL has been playing games over in London and Mexico City. So they're really only trying to expand, and they're already huge enough. So it's crazy how big they're trying to get. But yeah, the NFL and its 32 teams took in an estimated $12 billion just last season alone. And ESPN will spend about 15.2 billion just on NFL broadcasting rights during a 12-year deal that actually started in 2011. And that doesn't even include, the TV deals that the NFL has with CBS, NBC, Fox, stuff like that. Um, yeah, the NFL also has merchandise for all 32 teams. They have their own film crew. NFL Films, they use dozens of on-field cameras and microphones, slow motion technology to really turn the sport of football into a theater. I don't know if you guys ever seen any of the videos or anything that they have made, but it's pretty crazy. It's almost like you're watching like a Steven Spielberg or something like that. Um, they also have their own video game. So NFL is really, it's just as big as business as really any other business out there. It's pretty remarkable when you look at it. So getting into CTE and basically what that is. Well, pretty much Dr. Bennett Amalu was the first to discover and publish findings of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, also known as CTE. Um, and Dr. Ann McKee, another scientist, eventually would continue researching CTE where Amalu would left off. But getting into like the gist of what CTE is, it's pretty much a progressive degenerative disease of the brain found in athletes with a history of repetitive brain trauma, such as concussions as well as subconcussive hits to the head. Um, really, CTE can also be found in boxers, but recent studies within the last decade have proven that CTE is found in retired football athletes. Um, Pretty much the brain trauma that occurs, it pretty much wears down the tissue of the brain. And it's like a buildup of this abnormal protein called tau, and the tau releases blood into the different places of the brain, which is obviously harmful for it. And really, it's pretty crazy. The changes um, can take months or even years or decades to actually like occur. So a retired football player could be out of the league for about 5 or 6 years and be completely fine, and then out of nowhere he'll just, start having these symptoms of CTE. Some of the symptoms include memory loss, confusion, impaired judgment, aggression, depression, and even eventually progressive dementia. So it's actually a pretty scary disease, and it's crazy how we've only recently in 2002 just discovered it with Dr. Amalu's findings. But a lot of athletes who suffered from CTE experienced these symptoms before their death. And really, since the discovery of CTE, many medical scientists have questioned whether football should be played or not, which has made it very controversial to the NFL, stuff like that. So getting more into like Dr. Amalu and Dr. McKee's findings, Amalu's discovery was really a grave warning that football can inflict long-term brain damage on pro players. He first had discovered CTE in the body of Mike Webster, a center for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And his research and his findings on Mike Webster really led him to, dig deeper into what CTE is and like who else has it. So he started doing autopsies on other former players such as Terry Long and Andre Waters, which he also discovered CTE in them. So really his discoveries sparked the interest of other scientists. Another very important scientist in the whole CTE thing is Dr. Ann McKee, sorry. And she would eventually start conducting her own research, her own CTE research. And since starting her research, Dr. McKee has actually diagnosed CTE in 90 of 94 deceased NFL players she has studied. So that's a large amount of players having CTE. The research conducted by these two scientists really opened up a door that the NFL didn't want to open. You know, the research scared the NFL, and it made them very defensive on the issue. Linking CTE and football, and it really scared them. And you could tell by some of the things that they had done after Dr. Malo had published his findings. The NFL slowly started to realize that they have a serious issue, and they very well may be a link between football and brain disease. And there was a growing body of science to prove that, and the NFL pretty much took action by just going into denial about the whole thing. The NFL started to publish articles stating that concussions were not a serious problem in football, which is obviously proven wrong. They basically told Dr. Malo that his findings were inaccurate, and they attacked his work. The NFL knew that Amalo's findings could impact the future of football greatly, so they went after him. They even set up a mild traumatic brain injury committee, also known as MTBI, which actually no longer exists. Pretty funny, actually, because they pretty much lied to the public multiple times, saying that they were conducting research and that they couldn't find a link between chronic brain damage and repeated concussions. Which has all been proven wrong, with the findings of Dr. Amalu and also recent findings of Dr. McKee and stuff. Really, you can look at it as NFL being similar to tobacco company in the 90s, when they were denying the link between tobacco and health risks of smoking. The evidence was clear, but they didn't want to admit it because, they knew it would hurt the image of the NFL. In reality, the NFL went into a relentless delaying action for as long as they could, pretty much until March of this month. March of this year. The NFL's Vice President of Health and Safety, Jeff Miller, openly acknowledged a link between CTE and football, and that is the first time in decades that they have even come remotely close to admitting that link. So it's good that they finally realized that, there has to be a change being made, because if not, they actually have already lawsuits filed against them and stuff. I'll get into that later. So pretty much the gist of what I'm trying to say is football is not safe for the youth or for collegiate players, anybody. And the NFL dismissing the information for so long until recently has really created a danger for youth and collegiate football players. Parents sign their kids up to play football thinking that everything's going to be okay, there's no risk involved. But in reality, there's a huge risk. You're jeopardizing the health of children just by signing them up to play football. If a child continues to play football for multiple seasons, they're at a high risk of getting irreversible brain damage that cannot be cured. And really, who wants to see their kids suffering from depression, memory loss, or even suicidal thoughts at such a young age? Once the brain is damaged, it cannot be cured, not like other organs can. And children are minors who have not reached the age of consent, and I really believe that it's our moral duty as a society to protect them and their health, because they're the future of this country. What we can do to make it better, or to try to reduce the amount of CTE injuries being occurred or happening across football, is we can allow our children to play football, but only once their brain is fully developed. Children have the right to grow up and be provided with the information and education of the risk of playing football. And then from there, we can let them make their own decisions. So I believe that, there should be like an age limit, just like there is to drinking or voting or smoking. This is just as serious as the issue. We must have the same kind of rules and regulation when it comes to protecting the organ that identifies people, or identifies humans being for who they really are. So yeah, we should really. I believe we should at least wait till kids are about 18 to 25 years old, somewhere in that range, to really let them play football. Once they can get a general knowledge of the risks that they're taking by playing the game. So my final thoughts on all this. Well, I mean, I know I've been attacking the NFL pretty hard, but I can't say that the NFL isn't trying to change, because they actually are. They're trying to improve the game, especially within recent years. Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, has set up new rules and regulations within the past 2 years, regarding hits and where you can hit a player now. It's more of the torso and the lower region of the body. It's not more. They're trying to like reduce the amount of hits to the head, which is definitely a good thing. But I mean, it's football. It's gonna happen no matter what. You're gonna have concussions and all this stuff. It's bound to happen. There's no way you can stop it. The game is so fast paced, and everything happens so quickly. That kind of stuff isn't really gonna stop that much. I mean, you can try to reduce it, but you only can do so much. Um, but the NFL has also set up a heads up program to bring awareness about the dangers of football to children. Which is great. Um, and the NFL actually donates former NFL player brains to the Boston University for CTE study. So the NFL is definitely trying to make a difference here, and they're trying to make people aware of the dangers of football and stuff like that, which is great. But it took them forever to do this, which is the main thing. Like, it just bugs me, because they're pretty much using all these players and just using what they knew and not saying anything about it, and pretty much just to make money. You know what I mean? Just business, just like anything else. And the NFL markets the brutal violence that's associated with football. So regardless of how you see it, fans love the big hits. Football, like I said earlier, football's everywhere. You know what I mean? It's not going to go anywhere, no matter what kind of research comes out of brain injuries and how it's linked to football. It's just too popular in American sports culture. But at the end of the day, if the youth is informed and educated about the risk they're making about playing football, that's really what matters. As long as they know what they're getting into before they get into it, that's on them. Once they know what they're getting into, and then if they still make the decision to play, then that's on them if they get hurt and suffer from all these different brain diseases. As long as they know what they're doing, that's the right thing. Yeah, so I'm really just glad that the NFL is finally addressing the problem and trying to make a change. But there's some people that say football won't exist anymore because of all this research and stuff. But in my opinion, I really think that football just becomes so popular within our society that it's really not going to go anywhere. Really, the only thing you can do is make changes to it in the game and how it's being played, which is being done. So it's good to see that this is definitely being done. But yeah, that's pretty much my speech. So thanks for watching, guys.